rest of the Old Testament prophets, giving the same message we've given for thousands of years, and you're getting ignored. Here we go. Today, we'll be talking about the environment. First, as usual, let me review. If you want to learn the truth, nobabies.net. When you click on that, put in your browser, you'll get this page. Read to your heart's content. There's how to get a hold of me. If you want, there's source code for the computer program, which you'll learn about. First 32 video links will give you the science that I have. And then here are the scripts. Today we'll have a lot of links, so haunt up those scripts. When you go to the script for the talk, there will be substantial stuff you'll see in bold. And then if you want to know more, you can try clicking on links, and then after that, your research is up to you. So, here we go. Movie 53, Prophecy 8, Environmental Collapse. We're just going to run around and see some environmental numbers. It's something I've never seen anybody do, which is list all the problems with the environment and why there might be, what the ways in which there might be difficult. I'm no expert on this. This is just what's, climbed off the wall at me. All right. First, the ice prophecy. I've mentioned this a time or two. Maybe you can remember it. This is sea ice concentration as of 16 June 2019. The white is ice, the blue is open seawater, and the the kind of bluish, not pure white, but not the dark blue. That's, well, you can see over there. This looks like it's about 40% sea ice there. I don't know, less than 40, looks like to me. All right, that was June. We came back and looked about a month later. And as you can see, the total cover hasn't changed that much, but boy, it's thinning out here to beat the band. Big hole opens right on the North Pole. There's going to be a good chance that there'll be a thunderstorm. All the energy in the world will be pulled, the solar heat, get pulled to the North Pole and contribute to an enormous hailstorm. That will try to make its way to the coldest place for the South Pole. Let's go the energy, the definition of energy. It's the inherent urge, it's the tendency of stuff. On the way south, that storm could drop hail enough to make a glacier thousands of feet deep and hundreds of miles across. I don't know. The evidence is worrying. Could happen this year, could happen next, could never happen. Your guess as good as mine. You know where to find the where is it? I check that every day. You're welcome to. Alrighty. Now here is, well, months ago, I was in a total lather and say, the jet stream's gonna reverse, the jet stream's gonna reverse. Oh dear, dear, sky is falling. Well, and then I thought, no, that's crazy. That's just crazy. It's not gonna happen. So I dropped the issue. So here is a 7-hour forecast from Saturday to July 27, 2019. And as you can see, the jet stream here doubles back on itself. From there to there, it is running backwards. Nobody else has noticed. You have a reverse jet stream. It looks like you have to watch, a few hours and watch that curve there. So it looks like the jet stream is coming across the north of Siberia in the usual way, reverses, comes back the other way across the north of Siberia, which is here. So we got a jet stream coming this way from very hot Europe, looping back right across there. Makes me think the danger is, which could be California or China or wherever your eyeball says. That makes me lean toward being scared on behalf of Asia. And less worried about California, but I do worry about California. Okay, so much for ice. If that hailstorm happens, the climate, the environment is totally different, unpredictably, except pretty predictable what happens under 1,000 feet of ice. Freshwater, here's some facts from the UN, copied them down. Got a link for you. You can look up the UN's notion about let's see here. 71% of the billion of the world has safely managed drinking water on premises, available when needed, free from contamination. That means about 30%, quite the contrary, and 90% have at least some access, and 750,000 they don't have any safe drinking water. And you can read that. All right. Fresh drinking water. That's an environmental problem. When I was a child, my mother's family lived on a farm, Pennsylvania. There was a well, and you could go in out there, drop a bucket, and crank up perfectly good drinkable water out of the ground. Right there available. We didn't walk 20 miles to a government truck. Actually, you didn't drop a bucket, there was a pump. You went out to the well, you pumped, and up came fresh, sweet, safe, drinkable water. The environment is different now. The UN seems to think the problem is just one of engineering. Here's the National Geographic, their attitude, and they are a little more pessimistic. It's like we got only so much drinkable water that the environment's going to give us. Okay, another thing in the environment, farmland. Again, it's a finite resource. Projection of how much there is and how much is going to be used. I'd blow this up for you. You can, of course, click on it. And what they're saying is the number of acres. I don't know why I use hectares. Acres, perfectly good. Acres is just 3 or 4. Hectares is just 3 or 4 acres. Why they decided to go hectares, but the big boys like their jargon. All right. So it looks like land use will go up a little bit more. Here's 2019 or so. It'll go up a little bit more and then level off. Of course, the population will be leveling off. And of course, there is the matter of productivity. Can you get more food out of the same land? I think most of us agree that the population will stabilize by 2050, so we won't be feeding more people, but boy, they're going to wish they had better food if they'd eaten what they eat now. So yeah, you can't on this planet produce enough to feed people at the rate at which the U.S. munches its way through the food. If the land starts to degrade, which seems inescapable, then things get kind of bad. Okay, wetlands. Well, here the news is bad enough. They say, this report says, half of all wetlands have been destroyed since 1900. And wetlands are important. You know, nurseries for baby fish and protection of the land from storms and so forth. They go on about the necessity of wetlands. And they talk about it. You can look it up here. And need to make a little pause here. We'll start here pretty soon. Pause. Really. All right, I'm back. Let's see. So, wetlands, disaster. Speaking of wetlands, a house in the water, but there's a seawall. I have no wetland. It's just dead concrete drop from the lawn down to the to seawater. Not very interesting life along there. Sometime after I moved in, part of the yard next to the seawall began to get very marshy. I poked around and found there was some natural springs. I'm on a hill far older than the seawall, and the hill had natural drainage and a few little natural springs. Someone decided this was a drainage problem instead of a blessing, and had placed lots and lots of plastic down there to try to drive the water down and then drain it to the seawall with PVC pipe. He wanted his place look like everybody else's place. Right. Eventually, as this went on, there was a visible spring pouring out of the ground. I said, I'll make a little pond. I'll drain the spring into the pond and then channel it down a little artificial conduit to the wall and over. Hired a man to dig the pond. His first act was to take a stake and a hammer and drive it down into the middle of the spring. This, of course, broke through the clay bottom of the spring, the thing that was channeling the water out. All the water went down underground, and it never had a spring again, not one you could see. I hired another fellow. He dug the pond, arranged it for the drainage, and it worked okay for a while. The bog dried out. Noticed there was a patch of green plants growing where the water fell. I thought this was a great idea. Endless miles of seawall. If people would dig ponds, direct water from the roof drains into the ponds, and then let the overflow go over the seawall, we could transform the endless desert below the seawall to vigorous life. So I called Southwest Florida Water Management Department, Swift Mud they call it, and try to explain how thrilled I was and what a great idea this was. All I did was get a couple of guys furious with me, and they did not understand what I was talking about at all. They thought I was demanding something, and they didn't. Their job was not to fulfill demands. I wasn't demanding anything. They didn't know how to say no, but they knew they would have if they could figure out what I was talking about. Okay, you go further, get a big barge, plant it with, arrange it so you have a 40 foot by 40 foot, if you've got a nice sea wall, 20 foot, well, whatever you could manage. Nice big barge, put a glob of wetland into the barge. The and put it next to the seawall, and take that water after it'd been through a little pond in the ground, duct it down to run into your wetland. You'd to get everybody to do it, you'd have to make it a status symbol or give it a tax break or say nobody can fish in this area except person and then their guests can fish from the barge. You put up a little sun shelter and chairs. And we could have teeming life throughout and more wetlands, not the endless quantities you saw up here. Let's see if I can find that. Now there's wetland. It'd take a lot of seawall to produce that much wetland, but some at least. It would be a step in the right direction. Um, ah, and you get some of the services. It's just an idea. Now this is not my topic. I just ran across it while I was thinking about the environment. Fish catches. Everybody knows fish are important to human nutrition, and there's so much work being done trying to maintain a usable supply of fish that you have to be a career just following it all. And so here, what do they call it? Blue growth. This is just one group, and you can read their stuff. Follow the link there. You know, remember, go to where I showed you. You go down to you know, down in the 50s and find the environment lecture. Flip up the script for that, and then you can, hey, I always these links. Yep, we're running out of sand. Can you believe it? I didn't. There's a black market for it. All right, another thing I've copied down if you want to look at it. Well, they said no. Yeah, there's lots of sand in deserts, but it's the wrong kind of sand. Sand you find at the bottom of rivers and on beaches and at the bottom of lakes and oceans. That's the sand you want. The sand available at the Sahara has been blown around by the wind, polished smooth, whereas it's the broken, irregular, jagged sand that provides the bite you can make it useful. That makes it useful for making, concrete. And they're worried about how much sand costs, and if there's a black market, there's a shortage. I don't know about you. I suspect that the disproportion of sand disappearing is because the super rich are building themselves bunkers where they can hide from the rest of us after they precipitate the apocalypse. Yeah, right. I can understand. You don't want to You don't want to have horrible things happening, but that's useless because you go into your bunker and someone will come up and kick the door in. So you have some armed guards. What's to keep the unarmed guards loyal to you when food's running out? They're going to want to bring their families in. If they don't have their families, you can't trust them. Anyway, that's all waste. Okay, everybody can agree we have too much CO2 or too little CO2. Um, uh, People say CO2 causes global warming because energy diffuses more slowly through CO2 than through non-CO2 air. I'm not so sure. I've mentioned this before. I think, all right, break a perfume bottle 20 feet away across the room in a few seconds, so it's like feet per second or a mile or two per hour. The perfume will diffuse over to you. Okay, fine. Go into a thunderstorm, and we used to say that the updrafts of a thunderstorm would be 70 miles an hour. That's a lot more than 2 miles an hour. So updrafts move heat a lot faster than diffusion does. And those updrafts will carry more heat if they have CO2 in them. So when I look at it, I said this before, it looks to me like CO2 should be cooling us. And in the movie The Inconvenient Truth, this guy puts up you remember his name, he puts up a huge chart. And then he stands in tracing CO2 and temperature and how parallel they are. And he stands in front of it so you can't see it clearly. But if you really look around, you can see it shows CO2 temperature goes up. Shortly thereafter, CO2 goes up. Then temperature comes down, CO2 comes down. The temperature change happens just a little earlier. You can't see it except on this huge chart. Right, well, it's doing what you'd expect, isn't it? Temperature goes up, CO2 is released from the ocean, and that cools the earth back down. It's a homeostatic mechanism. Very, very nifty. And of course, we're needing a lot more CO2 now because we have all those vapor trails. And the vapor trails, well, one of the ways the people who are the global warming warriors, one of their only piece of evidence is big volcano eruption, world gets cool. Right? So, oh, well, gosh, I guess it's all that soot thrown up by the volcano. Of course, the volcano will probably be going through coal seams and throwing up a lot of CO2 as well. But they say, oh, well, the cooling can't be because of CO2 because that is warming. It isn't, but they say it is. And therefore, the soot, the clouds from the volcano must be cooling. They must be shading us. It isn't. They finally got around to looking at some vapor trails, and they found that the vapor trail was more effective in keeping heat in than out. Yeah, that's right. It's vapor trails that's warming us up, and the CO2 is protecting us to a degree. But that's only a guess, not my field. Get it from somebody who knows about it, but put the question to them. Don't let them just babble the way I do. All right, yeah, lots of luck getting our global warming warriors to stop flying around in jets. Eh? Yeah, we're running out of trees. You youngsters out there, don't remember what woods were like. Used to be a forest tree would be something like this, you know. It would be big enough to hide behind if you're playing hide and seek. If it was pretty good, you'd be big enough to have a hollow center and you could hide in it. All those are gone now. Go watch the movies. They'll show you an ancient forest and the trees are, like so big you couldn't hide behind them. Um, there aren't enough really big trees available for a movie set. But so loss of forest, it's worse than that. It's not only loss of forest, it's loss of the great old trees, except a handful here and there. Here they have cleared, this was the forest, this is off in Indonesia, I guess, Borneo, and they've cleared this to plant oil palm. Now then, first off, highly wasteful. You can see they just got dead tree trunks around. It's not like they're saying, okay, we have 100 feet of oil palm, 100 feet of tree, 100 feet. That would cut our yield in half. No, kill it all. Makes a man proud to be a dog. More chat about that sort of thing. Links. All right. So we're cutting down our forests at an alarming rate. And even when we aren't, we're taking out all the good stuff. Okay, gas, oil, and coal. Well, they're part of the environment. And here's a link that will tell you. Did I remember to put the link in there? But you can look it up. It's in the within a century or so we'll have we'll be running out of fossil fuels. I think I can build you or help you design a fuel source that's cheap, light, clean, safe. Nobody's asked me to, and if I unleashed that and people paid it any mind, you'd only use it to kill yourselves faster. Okay, yep, we're losing cropland to desert. And here's some talk about there in a link. And yeah, and that is also an environmental problem. Here's one that they don't talk about that much, but amphibians are declining. Here's a link. Imagine a world without amphibians, without frogs. And there's more. Beavers are found to be an invasive species in Sweden, the United Kingdom, and Terra del Fuego. You can pull minerals off the seabed. It's hardly worth it, but there's a little bit of money to be made. I mean, it seems like a winner. They get these nodules of minerals on the seafloor in some areas, and you could dredge those up. However, the article about it here, Deep Sea Dilemma in Nature, highly prestigious, so prestigious that I'm beneath their contempt. Manning the ocean floor, this is the subtitles, manning the ocean floor could solve mineral shortages. Now, it might help. And lead to epic extinctions in some of the most remote ecosystems on Earth, which I guess means nobody would know. After all that, well, then there's waste. You've pulled stuff out of the environment and used it, and now you want to get rid of it back into the environment. So all that stuff about things that we can't get or will be hard to get, it's going to be even harder to get rid of. So yeah. So speaking as the old prophet, yeah, you got some problems with the environment. I don't know anybody who has put up together a exhaustive list. Hopefully somebody has, and prioritized the things. But yeah, it's a threat. Okay, have a good week. and I shall be shutting down here and coming up with another prophecy in the soon to be foreseeable. Oh, yeah.